You're live on the AM show, and this is a news review segment, and Ben and I are here to steer the conversations. But before we get into it, a gentle reminder for you to select a solar system from our various solar packages ranging from 30,000 Ghana cedis to 99,000 Ghana cedis. Now, all our solar systems come with lithium-ion batteries. So you want to get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar power station, or a solar generator ranging from 1,000 watts to 20,000 watts. And we also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment. Google Solar Mates Ghana to find us both on Facebook and on Instagram. Or you can simply call 050-832-0470. Solar Mates Ghana is located at Adringano, East Legon. Solar Mates, we go everywhere.
Well, let me also tell you about Syntex tanks. Ghana, let's talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong and, of course, it has a lot to offer. It is unbreakable. And there you go. Practically unbreakable, I should say. If you're thinking of the safety of your water, potable water, you should be thinking Syntex tank. It's always got your back. I'll be telling you more about Syntex tank later on the show. But thank you. All right, so we come back into the studio, and we have our guest joining the conversation. What was that mischievous laugh, Siti Abachi? It's our little secret.
I was admiring you then.
It's our little secret. We will not mention the secret. But would you like to bring in our guest?
Yeah, we have Kwame Nkrumah Boateng, or Sajafo, like I like to say, Kwame Nkrumah Boateng, General Secretary of the CPP, and of course, Afel Moni, former President of GJA. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. How's Friday?
You forgot.
Yeah.
Honorable Kubash. Honorable Kubash.
You don't forget
you know that was his alias back in?
Oh,
yes. Revealed by... I'll not let this go.
He's not here today.
Well, let me ride on that. Honorable Kubash, yesterday we listened to President's first Sona in his second term. Yeah. Reactions are already pouring in. NPP MPs are saying he just, came to spew lamentations. NDC MPs are saying that is the true state of the nation. But I don't want to, direct you in terms of your reflections for us this morning. Well, what's on your mind?
Well, on my mind today is the sacrifices of various people in this country. And 3 people come to mind who 77 years ago died to help bring the country to what it is today. That is Sergeant Ajete, Corporal Atipo, and Private Odate Lamte. And as I think today is 77 years, as we reflect, we should all seek to, more or less, in our various endeavors, whether in our workplaces, whichever responsibilities we have, also lay down our lives for our country. And hopefully, as we commemorate the 77 years, the state will look at the circumstances of their graves, the circumstances of their families. And I know that in other jurisdictions, there are posthumous promotions. If that is also
it's
something...
not to say other jurisdictions. I mean, we have the case of Major Mahama.
Major Mahama,
it's not like...
It is true. I'd actually forgotten. Yes, I think it's about time. It's about time that we honored these gallant gentlemen who died for our country adequately. That is what is on my mind today.
Well, thank you for those thoughts. Mr. Moni?
I'd like to zoom on the media space in America.
Okay.
To do some reflective thinking on what's happening there. Reports have it that many storied journalism institutions in that country are badly under pressure from the Trump administration. To the extent that some have abandoned their editorial independence. And they include Associated Press,
Washington
Post, and CBS.
As for Washington Post, it also has to do with Jeff Bezos. Some say he wants to stay in line with the Trump administration.
Exactly.
And so I've read some very interesting stuff about that.
Very, very interesting and troubling at the same time. And, a threat against media freedom anywhere. It's a threat against media freedom everywhere. And it is recalled that in his inaugural speech, President Trump pledged to sign an executive order to stop censorship by state institutions and to give back freedom to the American people, to quote him. But what is happening is there is opposite of what he pledged. And we learn that journalism is not, and is rooted in truth, journalism is not a profession for timorous souls, timorous souls, or lily-livered or chicken-hearted people. Journalism is a profession for people who have that independent and fearless streak, like our gentlemen, men and gentlemen in men and women in Joy News multimedia group. So we need to monitor development in America and solidarize with our counterpart there to ensure that press freedom is not eroded, because it has a tendency to also ripple in other parts of the world, and this can spell disaster for all of us. And said that democracy is impossible without free media. And democracy is under threat because free media is under threat in America. So this is a troubling development we need to sharpen our focus on and join forces to ensure that democracy really works and media freedom thrives in America.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Moni. Let's zoom in into the newspapers now. I have the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let me start from there. Of course, the Sona will take lead. It says, "Our fix economic crisis resets Ghana to growth prosperity," according to President Mahama. "We will make free SHS better." Again, President Mahama. And Kokon Ketinketi project to benefit 55,000 households nationwide. Hajj Task Force sets March 13th deadline for package payment. And fix the economy, stop lamenting, Minority tells President John Mahama. Let's get in there and begin. Supreme Court strikes out suits challenging anti-LGBTQ plus bill. And I think Mr. Sky withdrew the application, so that's that. Western Regional Minister visits Sekendi prisons. BBC Komla Dumo Award 2025 launched. For all those interested, look it up and apply, and you just might get in. Let's stay here for a bit. Fix the economy, stop lamenting, Minority tells President. So the minority in Parliament has challenged President John Mahama to stop lamenting and fix the economy if he thought it was broken. And that's the view of the Minority Caucus. We have the photo Alexander Penyo marking here. Early days yet? Mr. Moni, let me start with you.
His Excellency the President, John Mahama, had hinted that he was going to trigger a truth bomb. And when he did, we all had, yesterday I was monitoring with all absorbing attention.
Right.
And all consuming seriousness, whatever he was going to say. And he came across as somebody who was tenaciously committed to fixing the economy or resetting Ghana. And he also demonstrated his relentless readiness to hit the ground running. But it's one thing promising and another thing doing the do or walking the talk. It's expected that NDC MPP will maintain their blinkered positions when it comes to issues of national importance, like the economy. And according to MPP, it was full of lamentations. The State of the Nation address was full of lamentations. But the President also will maintain his stand, and his support to maintain his stand, that he was articulating, reflecting the state of the economy. And the President has been challenged, or his government has been challenged to publish the true state of the economy. I will back that score for Ghanaians to know that this is exactly what the present government inherited, and this will also give a picture of the enormousness of the challenges facing them. And the President needs no reminding that he has no time to waste, no excuse to offer. He was voted into power to really fix the economy. It will come easy, it will come cheap. The challenges are formidable, but by dint of will, and the grace of God. And of course, the support of the Ghanaian people. At least some headway can be made, and which will bring relief to the Ghanaian people, most of whom are really under pressure and confronted with bitterly bitter cost of living.
Okay. Sajifu, did you get the sense that the president was just lamenting yesterday? I mean, even before he gave that Sona, you know, NPP MPs were already cautioning him that he should make sure that his speech reflected the true state of the nation as what he inherited. You know?
The question is why?
Yeah, why that rush to caution the president? But now he's giving us the state of the nation's address, and they're saying he was just lamenting. Did you get that sense?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, as someone said, the State of the Nation's address is about three things. Where we are, where we intend to go, and how we will get there. So what our honorable MPs of the minority side, I believe, were trying to do was to get him to omit the first part, which is where we are. But you cannot, you know, as
there's no future without the past.
Exactly. Yeah. As the Bible says, if you are going to build a house, you should know what you have before you start, lest you embarrass yourself. So His Excellency, the President, had to come clean and let us know where we are. If the minority has a problem, they can publish their own figures. But he also went on to state where we intend to go and even how we will get there. I think it was a good State of the Nation address. I mean, he went over and above. I mean, he even covered issues about having labor exchange programs with other countries, sending people abroad to go and work. And these brought back memories of the CPP days, where a lot of people were sent abroad on scholarships to go and work and all that, especially in Eastern Europe and other things. So I think we are on the right track.
Okay.
It wasn't just lamentations.
I mean, there's a large population of young people who are only observing the democracy unfold now. We've always lived under democracy, but to pay attention to what our leaders do, Parliament, is a lot of people who are only now following. And so some of us are watching what's happening with keen interest, watching parliamentarians trying to outshout each other in Parliament. You know, this one is saying that is not the true state of the nation. Where's the truth? Where's the lie? It makes for interesting TV. It does. Anyway, let's continue. Ghana Gas said, anyone wants to get a bite at the LGBTQ thing? I mean, now that application has been withdrawn, they're free to maybe revisit it to see if we can finally assent it and make it a law.
Yeah, well, when it comes to LGBT, it's something that anytime I have an opportunity, I speak about it. As a devout Christian myself, I don't think such things should be encouraged. However, I would also want to highlight the human rights aspects about these things. If you are going to pass the bill, I have seen billboards about aspects that say that if you suspect there's something going on regarding LGBT and you don't report it, you can also be subject to prosecution. But these are private things between people. I think our attention should be more on the recruitment, to go against the recruitment of people into LGBT or encouraging it. But going into people's bedrooms and saying, these two guys, you are too close. They could be business partners. They want to travel together. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think LGBT will get any country anywhere. If you look at the West, that today seem to be trying to trumpet LGBT. Their foundations were more of anti-LGBT. The anti-LGBT laws we have on our books were brought in by the colonial governments. If you look at America, they say, in God we trust. If you have built your foundation on good morals and you're Christian or Muslim or other beliefs, and you feel you have reached a certain stage where you want to rebel, you're on your own. But we are now trying to build ourselves, so we don't have time to go that route. So I'm glad it has been reintroduced. I hope His Excellency will assent to it quickly. But then we should also keep in mind that it shouldn't be an avenue for witch hunting and following people who have, there's something you call bromance.
Right, right.
I mean, we should avoid that.
To chip in something small, our constitution, the president says, frowns on unnatural carnal knowledge.
Yes.
And one doesn't need any superfluity of legal knowledge to know that our present constitution is against LGBTQ. So if even the attempt by the previous parliament to pass the bill into law got stuck somewhere, and a fresh attempt can be made to revive the bill. And I'm inclined to believe that the president, being a member of our church, Assemblies of God Ghana, who is as willing as ready to give his full endorsement to whatever will be passed in Parliament to reflect his stance on this issue.
Well, thank you. Let me do some other stories. Ben, you have some comments on that, or should I get to some other stories?
You go ahead.
Okay.
I'll come back later to the Sona.
So, in Nkukwan Kitinkiti projects to benefit 55,000 households nationwide, the government will soon roll out its Nkukwan. Are we sticking with that name? Is that what you're calling it?
Well, the president himself used it.
Yeah, but
you know how
are we sticking
sometimes
with-
in
Nkukwan Kitinkiti.
political gimmickry and
Yeah.
jargonism, sometimes something is used against you, and then
Yeah.
You remember the Calipo issue?
Yeah. And then we
Now
went to make Calipo.
it became a high five thing. So
Well, maybe it looks like we are sticking with good. Well, so the project, as part of measure to cut down on the country's importation of poultry products, especially chicken and eggs, as well as generate employment for the youth. And the project is expected to benefit not less than 55,000 households across the country, as well as create jobs for the youth. Let me add two quick headlines. So, we'll make free SHS better, President said. President John Mahama has reaffirmed his commitment to enhance the free senior high school policy and not cancel it as being speculated. I think on the education sector, this is what most people were looking forward to hearing. Also, we are getting, bite-sized reports from the ongoing consultative stakeholders forum that they would rather, or looks like they're leaning toward the school of thought, that parents should pay for boarding and feeding while the state focuses on, pumping the funds into infrastructure, resource development, and all that. And so we are hearing him say that we are not cancelling free SHS, but what the reports coming out from that engagement is also suggesting something else. I don't know how they'll reconcile all of it, but over to you. Let me start with you, Osajifo.
I think it's a good thing that the president has mentioned that we are sticking to the free SHS.
How free would it be?
Well, I've noticed that, I mean, as you said, that parents would take care of boarding and feeding. I think it's, at least let's try it out and see. Because I know it will still not, the advantage of free SHS is it allowed indigent students, those who couldn't afford, to be able to go to school.
Yeah.
However, if parents are to take care of boarding and feeding, it will not restrict you from going to school per se. It may restrict your access to the boarding house, but it will not restrict your access to the education. So it's a step in the right direction. What we had before was a right to the boarding house for everybody. But with this boarding and feeding, if you know you cannot afford the boarding house, which of course comes with feeding, the dining hall and all that, then you probably find an SHS in your area and be a day student. It is not a bad idea at all. I think because what we have currently, we've discussed on this program before about how some of the schools could not feed themselves. And even one of my juniors from secondary school was telling me about how when it was their time to host the students for a special dinner, every year group does that occasionally.
Yeah.
He said the school authorities actually pleaded with them that instead of feeding the students for just one day, as we also do, they should feed them for an extra 2 days. You see, and my secondary school is considered to be one of the better endowed secondary schools. And if even
Ajimota.
if even they were facing such issues, then what about the other schools? So I think it's a perfect idea. At least let's pilot it and see how it becomes. It will not restrict access to education. So
Okay.
I think it's a step.
The money.
Yeah,
Also,
the
he
fact-
mentioned the no fee stress policy for that is paying the first year fees for first year students. He also said that they'll be implementing that as well. I'm curious to see how all of it will pan out. But
starting with free
let's see now.
SHS, the fact is that, and this is so undisputable, that many parents are so financially disabled that they cannot pay for the fees of their works in school. I remember some of us went through some hellish moments in school paying for our fees. And even though some of us were paying half scholarship by virtue of our positions in class, in those days, the first 10 students enjoyed half scholarship. I was fortunate to thrive on that. Even paying the half was gargantuan problem. And so the free SHS has come to relieve many parents of this financial burden. But at the same time, we also ought to bear in mind that perfection with any policy is an impossible goal. So free SHS, with all its positive sides, is one of the best social interventions in the history of this country. But at the same time, we all know that it had its challenges to the extent that some children were denied quality food, quality and regular food. I do recall that your station did a fantastic job.
Yep.
The empty plate in secondary schools.
Yeah.
This all reinforced the need to take a look at the free SHS. But the policy of the past government was that any attempt to review was going to dilute the entire policy of free SHS. So the ongoing review forum is a step in the right direction. Ideas do not reside in one person's head. Ideas do not flow from one source. Ideas flow from so many sources. So we're going to mobilize people, put them together to churn out ideas which will help us to refine and improve this policy. But cancelling it as articulated by the President should be out of the question.
Okay. Scrap COVID-19 levy.
I want to chip in on the free SHS. I've always said that free is good, but you can't do free when you can't fund it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the UK, how they implement it, there is stratification so that some parents are paying for feeding and a few other things. It's not blanket like we're paying everything for everybody. That's not how it's done. In the UK, what is their GDP? What is our GDP?
Single digits.
They are streamlining so that people who can pay certain components pay.
Yeah.
And we are not just sitting there, free for the masses. When you say this, people think I benefited in a way. I mentioned yesterday, my grandfather was a cocoa farmer. I didn't even benefit throughout secondary school. I benefited at the latter end. I benefited from the scholarship secretariat on merit at the University of Ghana. I was one of the few in that bracket. So I traveled to Cuba on merit.
Okay.
You get it? All of these are there. Like you were mentioning, half scholarships and all of that. That is when you identify the needs and then you realize that, for example, up north, the people there have benefited from free education for quite a while. Many people are not aware of it. You get it? If in the UK they are doing that, what is your economic situation? IMF and all of that. So these things must be stratified. You don't just go and do blanket. Everybody, free SHS is here to stay. It must stay. It will stay. And we thank God the president has said that. But you must think through the issues and not just do blanket. I was mentioning, the IMF told you this thing, the way you are implementing it, is not right. Yet some people think a blanket dispensation is the right thing to do. Let me remind Ghanaians, it's like the subsidies we had on electricity and stuff back then. You can equate that to it. Under Rawlings coming all the way. Why did we have to stop it? We realized it was not feasible. So my position is that let's stick with it, but let's streamline it such that it's so properly organized over time that the real people who need it are the best, the greatest beneficiaries.
Exactly.
So, for example, we wouldn't have the situation where people are getting poor quality food. Is that not part of it?
Yeah.
So that if the right things are done, those who can afford a certain level are able to bring their food and all of that. Those who are benefiting from the system get a high quality of food. That is not just equality, equity. But you say it and people sometimes are very rash to, and this and that. I'm not referencing
the political
but I'm just saying that this is how we really
need to
think
overshadow
about the issue.
Prudence in implementing this policy.
I mean, it's a step in the right direction.
I think that's what the consultative stakeholders engagement forum, I think that's the whole point of it, so that we can assess where it needs to be reviewed, how do we use the money, because our biggest budget comes from the education ministry, you know, and so we need to understand really how we spend the monies that are going there. So hopefully we can wait patiently and see what the forum comes up with. Scrap COVID-19 levy, VAT on transit cargoes for efficiency at ports, that is Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Review Get Fund Act regulations to address financial challenges in education system, according to Professor Tuguba. On the back page, dedicate fund for public health emergency discussants, and LogNet pledges support for local government minister. These are some stories on the Ghanaian Times, in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Ben? Okay,
let me quickly do the Daily Graphic newspaper. I'll start from, since you've already read some of the details of We'll Build Ghana Together, the Sona, I just wanted to highlight, if you go to page 3, the way it's captured here. President Mahama's words wove a narrative of hope and resilience tempered by the sobering realities of a nation at the crossroads, painting a vivid picture of the challenges facing the country and its vision for a brighter future. I just want to say this. We have to get to the point where basically data cannot be contested. And the Ghana Statistical Service is helping us get there in that direction. Because you usually have some lies sometimes. And I'm not saying one group is at fault. By both of our major political entities spewed here and there. We must get to the point. Look, one thing I was certain of was that the dynamic of roads constructed by the former administration was not true. The thousands of kilometers that were, I spoke to experts and all of that. You can't resurface and do some other things. And it came up yesterday. But my concern, ladies and gentlemen, has to do with some stark realities. The president made mention of the fact that not a single Agenda 111 hospital was operational. And mind you, operationalizing it does not mean you've put it up. I think 3 were launched, inaugurated at the end of President Akufo-Addo's tenure. So you're asking yourself, over $400 million was disbursed for Agenda 111. Disbursed. It has gone out. $400 million. We don't have even one that is operational. And that brings to mind, though I didn't hear the president mention that, the National Cathedral. Another how many tens of millions
he didn't
of
touch
dollars.
On that,
Then you look at the fact that USAID has withdrawn all this money, over 130 million, that goes into antiretroviral drugs in the western and northern regions, malaria research, Noguchi's work, and all of that. And you realize we have a serious problem on our hands. And to add to that situation, then he tells you that the sinking fund now has only $64,000 and 143 million Ghana cedis left in it. And that for ESLA, what was left, or at least the benefits in there, of about, 45 billion. Now there's a debt of 70 billion. I was just trying to wrap my mind around the enormity, the stark realities. And I'm not trying to lampoon the MP. But if these are true, and again, that's why I'm saying that the data must, and if you follow, we must stop the lies. We must get to a point where no one can lie to us like this. Then this is disastrous. And getting here, I don't know how we could have possibly got here. But those are my reflections. I don't know whether you have anything to add on that, because that's the first bit I wanted to look at.
I agree with you. And starting with the Agenda 111, I listened to one of the minority MPs, and he was saying that one could have been operational if not for the mass layoff of some nursing and medical staff. So they themselves admit that none of them is operational, you see. And I mean, $400 million is a lot of money. But I agree with you 100% that we need access to accurate data, because indeed it could be that they are not operational because of the probably the facilities or how it was built. You understand me? Because the $400 million was supposed to have been spent on these hospitals. However, if they are not operational, it does not necessarily mean that the $400 million went down the drain. You understand me?
But
so we need to
these have been
data.
disbursed.
Yes.
A lot of them are at various stages of completion.
Yes.
Let's not even talk about operationalization, because then you are thinking equipment.
Exactly.
You are thinking human resource.
Yeah.
You are thinking other logistics. You remember what happened to the UGMC?
Yes.
Which is why I've always said that knowing the sort of political space, if I were a leader in this country, I would target projects that feasibly I can complete over 90% before I leave. So that whoever comes, whatever you decide to do, even if I wouldn't have cost the taxpayer, but realistically, you start an Agenda 111, 111 hospitals, some districts, some regional, and all of that. Realistically, what is the possibility of completing these? How many times did we postpone the... I mean, some of the things...
Maybe the calculation was
if you
that...
think of it, it must be that someone wanted to chop something.
Yeah.
The election,
in fact, one of the NPP MPs said yesterday that if they were still in power by now, they would have completed some of the
How many times?
And I thought, how long have they been in office? So they're saying that in these 2 months that the NDC took over, they would have been able to complete Agenda 111 hospitals.
To complete all the Agenda 111 projects within 2 months. Not at all.
Oh, well.
Sometimes they were banking their hopes on the election outcome to favor them. We did not.
It's true.
So it's a lesson we all ought to learn, that we need to filter whatever project we undertake through the tight weave of reality. Making sure that there's dedicated funding, making sure that, yes, we complete within a certain space. Otherwise, there's no point in spreading thin our meager resources.
And those are the basics of project management. You're looking at the use of money, time, value, and all of that within. That's project management.
Yes. But anyway, we have to take a close look at that, because, governance, the state, the government is there, it has perpetual succession. Whichever party takes over has to continue where the other left off. And sometimes there are times when you may not be lucky to win the election. So the politicians also have to be transparent with us. That this is what we are building. And it will take this number of years. But as you said, a lot of lies are put around, and we're even given definite dates. I think of the Sky Train. I was supposed to have a Sky Train September 2021. So they have to be very frank.
The one on the ground, cry, we know the scene.
They have to be very frank with us that we are building these hospitals. We'll finish in 8 years, we'll finish in 12 years. Otherwise, you get this backlash. So I think,
And Ben, on the state of the economy,
okay, so
I think in the name of comprehensive journalism, we'll tax the media community to go back and see what's actually left by the previous government. I think it's not something they can easily do. It's not a rocket science. They can go to statistical service, wherever, and then look at what was left in the books, so that this debate will end.
Part of the problem is that so many people are appointed by government that sometimes, if you look, I've had certain government officials, I can't mention, but not directly in government, but working with certain institutions. They come here and they will tell you that, this and that, but they can't say it on air. Do you understand? That is part of why the truth sometimes doesn't come to the fore. Because when government officials are saying something else, if you, that institution, to contradict? Who knows better? You come, which knows better? If you come and say something, your position, you are likely going to be sacked in the next how many hours? That's problematic. And I feel this is where we also have to concretize the work of the NDPC. If we're working properly, these political parties, all of us, with the NDPC properly, these political parties will not be able to do this. Lie, waste our money. Just look at it. 400 million for Agenda 111 and where we are. If it were an individual's money, would you expend your money that way?
Not at all.
What is the cost to the nation? What would be the cost of completion?
Yeah.
Especially when you lampoon Saglemi, for example, and say there was wastage and all of that, then you shouldn't do some of these things. Look at the National Cathedral. How much have we expended on that?
Yeah.
What do we have?
Yeah. Yeah.
So realistically, I think these are very problematic. And again, I'm making it clear. When I make these points, it's not for the NDC or against the NPP,
yeah.
or for the NPP against the NDC. Because there are times where when I was speaking against the NDC, people felt I was. But the point is, any government, and this government, if they go down that same road, they will get worse.
Yeah.
Since they are claiming they know better, if they go down that same rabbit hole, we'll follow them down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And this nonsense must stop, honestly.
Exactly.
There's a French journalist, French lawyer, Michel Montaigne, sincere lawyer, who once said, I learn little from good examples, but more from bad examples, which serve as daily lessons.
Yeah.
Michel Montaigne.
Yeah.
So the bad examples in the past should serve as lessons.
Yes, for you to
And
avoid.
lessons for the present government to avoid.
Exactly.
Well, just to conclude on, we have a bit of time, but I'll also be snappy so that we can look at other things. I'll get to the international front shortly, but public debt stands at 721 billion Ghana cedis. In fact, yes, Ghana cedis, President Mahama reveals. And Ghana's public debt currently stands at a staggering 721 billion Ghana cedis, President John Mahama said. This is in addition to the several state-owned enterprises that are also in debt. The SOEs include the ECG, which is indebted to the tune of 68 billion Ghana cedis, and the Ghana Cocoa Board, which is equally highly indebted to the tune of 32.5 billion Ghana cedis. It goes on and on. He talks about the $64,000 and 143 million that I mentioned was in the sinking fund. But you know, the ratio also changes depending on the exchange rate. So if the CD falls, the cost of our debt also rises. The little point I wanted to highlight here, again, we must be brutal. A nation's economy is run just the same way you would run a big business. It's just that this is on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
If, Ghana, we were expending our money, forking out from our pockets, would we do with the SOE, some of these state-owned enterprises, what we are doing? A chunk of them, it's even in recent times that I think a few have started, a good chunk of them only bring in debt. Year on year, they are incurring losses. Yet we are paying their CEOs, board, and other members fat salaries. 70,000 Ghana cedis, 80,000 Ghana cedis, 100,000 Ghana cedis, 60,000 Ghana cedis. For what? For what work?
You're dropping salary levels.
Then the perks of their work, other benefits, even when they are done with their work. You saw the wrangling recently at one of the, I don't want to mention, the institutions where someone said, I will not go.
Yes.
And then certain revelations. It's not that we've not known. But
SIC.
if people are getting these chunks of money, resources, what does the ordinary Ghanaian get? Even labor recently, 10% because of where we are. So the ordinary person, public service, is earning chicken change. Look at teachers in this country are earning chicken change.
Even doctors.
Someone gets a job, whether for party or whatever, at some of these places, and they are earning all these sums of money. For what work, really?
Yeah.
In the US and other places, if a company makes a certain outturn, then the executive can reward itself. Here, you are incurring losses and rewarding yourself. What logic is that?
Yeah, exactly.
So this reinforced the need for salary rationalization, and TUC and the president also promised to embark on this journey.
In fact, the minister was also saying they were going to change what fair wages into something, remuneration and productivity outfit or so, so that they can streamline how they can match your inputs. This is what you get. Maybe this is a way to go, but let me not take the win out of this.
Yeah. So we learn from all these mistakes.
Do we learn? Doesn't look like we are learning for money.
We are obliged to learn from these mistakes. Otherwise, we repeat them. And this repetition will come with disastrous consequences. Because our democracy is on test. As you know, there's a mismatch between democratic supply and democratic demand. And this government cannot and must not and dare not fail. Otherwise, it will spell a disaster of epic proportions for this country. As many people are watching, many of those who have lost confidence, who have lost trust in governance, and and this is a blanket truth that some may even welcome unconstitutional change in government, as happening in our neighboring countries.
Yeah.
But we ought not go there because we've tried the rest. We all saw what happened after the 6. Ghana went back, centuries back. And you can't compare democracy with dictatorship. In fact, dictatorship and democracy do not belong to the same sentence. There's nothing common about them. And so once we decided in the referendum in 1992 to abandon the bullet course and embrace the ballot box, please, let's ensure that we play the game according to its rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could add to that, it's a very important.
Sweetie, I've not heard your thoughts. I want to hear them before I continue.
And even one of the things that came to mind is in the States, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, he's in charge of this department called DOGE.
Yeah, government. Department of Government Efficiency.
No, they asked the other one.
Department of Government Efficiency.
And it's funny that the man who can buy whatever he wants in the world is clamoring for cuts to be done. Which shows that the best way to gain wealth is to check your spending. Somebody will think that this man has so much money, he can just throw it into the States. And no, there's this mentality of, oh, let's just make more money, everything will be fine. No, but we stick to our budgets, we cut the expenses where we have to. And we spoke of how businesses operate abroad, the bonus system. So you have the CEOs having fairly low salaries. At the end of the year, looking at your productivity, then you get a bonus because a country with a minimum wage of, is it 560 Ghana cedis a month? And then you see what some of the CEOs of state-owned enterprises are earning. That means that if you do the calculations well, they may even be earning per hour what somebody earns in a whole month. I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best. And regarding the 721 billion debt, I was listening to an item on Ghana's top 5 export countries, which the number 1 is China, number 2 UAE, there's UK, there's US. I've forgotten the 5th one, which gives us a clue there that these rich countries don't make their money from the domestic economy per se. They export.
Yeah.
You understand me? They export. That's why this in Nkukon, Kitinkiti and other things are exciting. If Ghanaians will grab it with both hands, we could also go into the frozen chicken industry and we'll rather export it to other countries to feed the nation and bring our debts down. Because we even have a small population. You cannot really climb out of this debt hole by just concentrating. And every Ghanaian is capable enough to export something. You don't necessarily have to go into agric
or if you can't do it yourself, that is where you have to create, and later I'll talk about this, you have to create the environment for some people to thrive more, business people, and when those individuals, that's why you have Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett. So some individuals will thrive to the highest level, and then they'll create jobs for a lot of people. You don't necessarily have to have everybody inventing something. It was, I've forgotten who came into the studio, and he was mentioning that Burkina Faso alone, per his analysis, if we look at our exports to them and we ramp things up, looking at factoring in, there's a term in economics that you know, I've forgotten, where your best productivity is.
Comparative advantage.
Comparative advantage. Then you will know that you can harness this, push more in that area, and we could be making $5 billion from just Burkina Faso. Imagine that. How much did we go to the IMF? So it's about knowing your areas of strength, going full throttle on those areas, ensuring that, but the way we do our things here,
that is perfect. And even if Burkina Faso also has a comparative advantage in something, we also take it in. We support each other. And I believe that we'll rise together.
Rather, we'll import chicken from Brazil. Do you know how far? I've been there, so I know how many.
And if you look at those who import, they're political forces.
Oh, yeah.
Political heavyweight. And why is to stop them?
Our job requires us to speak up on these things. But sometimes I wonder to what end? Because it's not as if the leaders don't know what's right. It's not as if they don't know the solution to the problems. I mean, we sit here every day and we talk about it. We all know that if they really wanted a solution, one-stop solution to fix our problems, they know where to get it, and they will get it, and it will work. Okay, so sometimes when we are pussyfooting with issues, this issue about salaries, there was a time that all these people taking 80,000 and the rest were taking somewhere around 5,000-7,000 and they were okay. Then greed started seeping in slowly. Then they realize, oh, it's state-owned institution, I can get more. And then they greed, and then they keep going and going, and they forget that by doing that, they are also widening the gap, the disparity between the rich and the poor. It keeps opening up because they want to keep it for the select few who are privileged enough to get there without thinking that it trickles down to what's happening at the grassroots. And one day you wake up and these people will pick up, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. This is how it started. No, really, this is how it starts, you know. People get tired of watching the few elitist people spend the money and all of us are here struggling. I'm not saying that I don't know for you, maybe you're not struggling. But you know what I mean? This is how war starts. This is how, you know, revolution starts. This is how people pick up arms. This is how Kenya and Burkina Faso, this is how it starts. So I think that, when you wanted to hear my thoughts, we should go past the rhetoric, the pussyfooting, and I will do this. Do it, you know, do it. I think that I agree with those who are saying, yeah, we've heard you. It's no longer time for you to be saying, I will do this, I am doing that, this is what I left. Okay, Mr. President, do it.
Indeed, he must do it. But it's also important, like Kwame Nkrumah Botsi mentioned, we must know where we are to be able to know where we can go. There's
we all know where we are.
There's an interesting comment that comes through.
Except that some decide to play us.
Benjamin, we know where we are.
Some decide
to
play us.
The Deputy Finance Minister says even the President was charitable. That's the way the thing did. But I have an interesting comment. Natogma, I don't know whether that's his real name or her real name. In fact, the discussions on the Joy News TV channel this morning is so politically biased. We're all here in this country when the NDC said at the launch of Agenda 111 that the time was too short for the NPP to get government to be able to complete even a single project. It reminds me of the Bible, right? It says it's only a fool who starts a project without counting the cost. Midway.
He said that this morning,
I have to say that. But Natogma, your comment itself tells you, if someone cautioned you that, hey, this thing you are about to do, and you went ahead and did it, and not just with your money, with our money, what does that make you?
Whether you believe it or not, the Bible is a perennial spring of wisdom, an infallible guide of conduct. So we can...
I want to counter the point I just made, just so that I'm fair to everybody. You know that around this time, a few years ago, 8 years ago, we were hailing when former President Akufo-Addo was talking about, by the end of my tenure, this will happen. I will do this. And we're hailing. We thought we'd got the Messiah, you know. And 8 years down the line, we were waiting impatiently to boot him out. You get what I mean? And so, in as much as it's early days yet for the NPP, I think it's time we actually start holding their feet to account, right? So that they don't get complacent, so that they don't get comfortable, so that they don't think that, okay, they can come and honeymoon for 2 years, and when they have 2 more years to exit, then they start commissioning things here and there. This is the time for us to talk. So what we are doing is apt. President
Mahama doesn't even have 2 years.
Well,
those who have said, you see, he has 1 term.
1 term,
After about 1.5 years, 2 years, some party people will start wrangling for the next leadership of the party.
Oh, it started already. It started already.
No, wait, right now it's just subtle.
Some names are popping.
At that point, it will be full blown. And then that is where you see people's focus shift from the real business of government, and some of them will be focusing more on their individual priorities, becoming this and becoming that. So realistically, he has about 2 years within which to get things done. Within that period, there will be no, like, we'll flay them. We'll hold, you know, a horse whip. We will not, because once you leave the politician a little, he or she starts to take their foot off the gas.
And we've seen it, Ben. We've seen it happen. You know? So let's let no one take their feet off the brakes. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's hit at them hard. Let's critique. That brings something to attention. I don't know if I should even be speaking about it. Our parliamentary affairs correspondent brought something to attention yesterday about how they were restricting media houses from entering, some sort of censorship. And I'm saying to myself, well, if President Mahama wants to enjoy the the goodwill of the
what
people
was
of
the
Ghana.
rationale?
Well, I don't know. It's only GTV, and I hear, was it Ways also, that were allowed in, and they said they'll give them clean feed. And so some of the other media houses' cameras were not allowed to go in there.
Oh.
I don't think, if this is what's happening,
That's
I think you
not
really
good.
should look
That's
at it.
not-
It's
yeah.
a terrible start.
Yeah.
We put you there because
yeah.
you said we were going to build the Ghana we want together. So it's not time for you yet to start censoring and deciding who gets to see what.
Yeah.
And you don't,
I think the
what that
Communication
does is
Department
they
of
show us
Parliament
what they want
must
us to see.
Come out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's dangerous.
Exactly.
You
That's
just
very
spoke about, you know, press freedom in America.
Yeah.
We should be
Right,
talking
yeah.
about, we should hit hard at this
Yeah.
so that they don't do that.
Right.
Then
Let me just do this. We have to cross over very quickly. We'll be right back into the studio. There's renewed fighting between the Nanik Bimbago communities in the Northeast region, and Ilyasu Tanko, our Northeast regional correspondent, is on hand. Ilyasu, what exactly is happening?
Very troubling news coming from the Nanik and Bimbago community, which is located in the Bunkrugu Nakpanduri district of the Northeast region. As we speak, we are getting reports that there's active fighting ongoing between these two communities. We have confirmed that from the Regional Security Council chairman, who is the minister, and also the member of parliament for the area. As we speak, we understand that the security forces are unable to move in because of the fighting that is currently ongoing. There are several casualties that are feared in the area. As we speak, there are reports that the Nanik community is completely razed, and there's active shootings or fighting ongoing in these two communities.
And looking at the circumstances, do we know of the underlying trigger?
Exactly. Sometime in September of last year, there was a renewed violence in that particular area because of chieftaincy. So what is happening is that the community of Bimbago, they are challenging the elevation of the chief of Nanik to the paramountcy. They are alleging that the land in which the Nanik people are settling belongs to them. They willingly gave it out to the Nanik chief. And so they will not allow the Nairi, who is the overlord of the area, to enskin or elevate the chief of Nanik to the paramountcy. And so this is the underlying cause of the conflict. Last year, before the tension renewed, there was press conferences, there were demonstrations in the Bimbago community against the elevation of the Nanik chief. And that did not yield any intended results, so to speak. And so that led to this particular violence, as we are learning.
And we hear there are casualties. What are we talking in terms of numbers, in terms of the state of injuries, and what is the involvement of the police so far?
Well, all these details are still unclear, as we've confirmed from very high level sources, simply because the security forces' efforts to intervene is being hampered or are being hampered by the ongoing fighting. Like I said, there's active shootings, there's active fighting still ongoing, which is essentially hampering the effort of the security forces to intervene. So we hear of serious reports of serious devastation, like I mentioned. We are getting reports that the Nanik community is completely razed down, and there's shooting that is currently ongoing.
Wow. There must be a state of panic then, I mean, on the back of these circumstances. Is there anything else we should know, Ilyasu, before you take leave of us?
Well, the member of parliament for the area mentioned that there had been signals last night that he promptly informed the security forces. And so he's at lost why this still happened. And he's calling for immediate intervention, especially the security forces, because it seems to appear that because of the situation, the security forces are also waiting for the situation to, subside before they move in. The member of parliament is saying that under these circumstances, the security forces should find a way to move in immediately to prevent further damages.
I see. Just a quick afterthought. The regional minister, do you know whether there is awareness of the situation and what actions may follow from this morning? Do you have any idea?
The regional minister confirmed that he's aware of the situation, that he has been informed by the security forces in that particular area. He mentioned that immediately he took over, the issue was on his table. He invited those he called the interested parties and discussed them with them, and they assured him that they were going to keep the peace in that particular area. At the moment, he said that they are going to convene immediate Regional Security Council meeting to discuss this matter.
Ilyasu, we are grateful for your time this morning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. We also have the Member of Parliament for that area joining the conversation, Honorable Bankpurugu. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I got your name wrong. Dr. Abednego, right?
Yeah, Dr. Abednego Bandim.
Right. Thank you for joining the conversation. Now, what do you know so far in terms of what triggered this renewed clash, and what actions have been taken so far?
Well, we picked up signals that this was likely to happen this morning. So accordingly, we alerted...
Please hold for me. You say you picked up signals that this was likely to happen this morning?
Yes, so accordingly, we alerted the police command and the few army personnel on the ground, and that to be on their alert. And then just early this morning, as it was rumored, then my information is that some communities have been under attack. So I've just finished talking to the security commanders on the ground for them to take action immediately.
Would you say enough was done after the tip-off to maybe avert this? Because you want to be proactive, not reactive.
Yes, definitely. I mean, yes, enough was done. You know, there are some challenges that we face. The number of police on the ground and then also the army backup are not enough, which we have reported. You know, so the government was working to increase their numbers and then ensure that a camp is created over there. You know, so as we speak, the police is on their way to the community and the army as well. They are all on their way to the communities. If you understand the distance from the district, Bunkpurugu, and the area where there are these attacks are quite far. So we are working to establish a base over there. This was last night, almost after 1 a.m. that I got an information. So immediately...
So it was basically this morning?
Come again?
It was basically this morning, if you're mentioning 1 a.m. So it was actually this morning you got the tip?
Yeah, this morning, exactly, yes. Yes, this morning. Yes, that is right. So the police are, as we speak, are on their way with some army backup on the ground. So they are currently, they are almost there. I think they are there as we speak.
I see.
Well, I'm sure your people are listening to you. What do you have to say to them?
No, I just returned from the constituency about a week ago. I went round to meet with various stakeholders in the various communities to appeal for peace so that development can take place. The area is impoverished. There is no water. Schools are not operating. The few CHIPS compounds that are there, the staff have bolted. They have left the area. So the people themselves are suffering. Those whose houses have been burnt, they don't have clothing even to wear. No food, because their food items were also burnt down. No place to sleep. The women and children especially are suffering. So I can only appeal for them to put down their arms and let's all embrace peace so that we can develop it. Government is doing best, so that some developmental projects that forestall continue. But if there is no, we cannot develop. Government cannot develop. In fact, over the years, they have used the developmental finances that should have been used to improve on schools and healthcare delivery to cater for peacekeepers, the army and the police on the ground. So basically, there is nothing to write home about when it comes to development, because our sheer common fund and other finances that comes are used for peacekeeping purposes, and it is not helping us at all. So I can only appeal for peace to reign in the area so that we can do our best to develop the area.
Doc, are you confident that this can be contained without spilling over to neighboring communities and, escalating into something bigger?
That was our fear, that it had the potential to escalate or spread to other communities. If you look at the way the people are, the settlements of the people. But I believe that if we establish a base, both army and police base in the area, it will not spill over. I am very confident of that. So it's one of the recommendations that I have given the Minister for Interior, that both police and army base is established around Bimbagu and Ngangmaburuk area. I think when that is done, there will be peace.
To the best of your knowledge, any casualties in terms of lives lost, people injured?
Not at all, because I understand that even as we speak, some houses were being burned, and they could hear the sound of gunshots and all of that. So we are not able to assess the situation unless the army and the police gives me some information with regards to lives and the amount of properties that are damaged. As of now, I cannot confirm anything yet.
Concluding
what
thoughts,
I know is that there are gunshots and some houses are being touched. That I'm told.
Concluding thoughts from my end, the issue of arms comes to play. How are you going to deal with that situation? Arms in the hands of so many members of these communities. And secondly, in the immediate term, today, what actions are you looking to bring to bear? The RegSec, the regional minister, we are told, is in the know. What are the actions that we can look forward to today to quell the situation?
Yes, already, as I indicated earlier on, we have been very proactive. There was a meeting between the regional minister and the various stakeholders, family heads and chiefs, had a meeting at the regional council. And after that meeting, all the recommendations that were made or observed were forwarded to Accra. That was before I visited the area, and also came back with my own report and recommendation. So we are working with the Ministry of Interior to implement the recommendations that we came out with. We will continue to engage the various activities. We know we'll continue to engage and see how best we can bring peace. But there will be some form of retrieving arms, individual arms, and that we have to work with the security experts to come out with a strategy to that effect. There is no doubt that they are heavily, they are heavily, according to the police and army.
Okay.
When they hear the guns, they are able to determine kind of weapons that are being used for them. So
right.
have to come out with a clear plan of retrieving those. But we have to secure the very, very fast before we can think about retrieving them.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for doing us the honors. That is Dr. Abednego Bandim. He is a member of parliament for Bunkpurugu. He joined the conversation, and we pray for the best in that community. Coming back into the studio, quick reflection.
People are just sitting dogs, man. No, it's dangerous. Nobody can access the place. They're just sitting and waiting for military, and it could spill over. There's nothing they can do about it. This is scary, isn't it?
You know, I really sympathize with the MP. I mean, in my area of practice, I face similar issues occasionally. I mean, you'll be surprised how close to home these things are. But almost all the time, because of the presence of the police, we're able to nip it in the bud. I mean, there are many times where we may have a hint that somebody is installing a rival chief, and I don't want to go into details. You rush to the nearest police station, and there was one commander who dealt with it so well. He has, I mean, the opinion leaders, stakeholders, chiefs on speed dial on his phone. He immediately called him, put him on speakerphone, and said, "We hear this is what you are trying to do. You want to install this chief here and there, and we are warning you, if you disturb the peace, we are going to deal with you." And that is all. I want to see you next week, this. And then you're able to gather both sides and have some peace. Everybody explains their side. But if in this situation they don't have adequate police, and I know these areas are maybe quite remote, it gives people the ability to misbehave when they have a bit of arms. So I'm sure His Excellency, the various state agencies are listening. I think when it comes to the security arrangement, there should be a lot of attention paid to these areas as well, because you may think because the population is small and spread over a very wide area, you don't need so many security personnel, but we really have to.
Hopefully, the security will not be hesitant, because
we'll be hesitant to blame intelligence failure in this conflict, because other antecedents were known. This is a conflict-prone area, and we saw that no, it was going to happen. It was a bomb which was bound to explode. But yet, I think there was some slowness somewhere in responding adequately to the magnitude of this issue. So we up our game in proportion to the magnitude of this issue.
We'd had reports of alleged military brutality up north.
Yeah.
And although the military, or should I say security forces, have not come out to clear the air, I know that off air they're raising concerns about why we're amplifying these allegations of military brutality. Hopefully they are not hesitant to go in there and nip this in the bud, because of the reports we are getting that the military are only brutalizing.
But also
the
they shouldn't be gung-ho and brutal.
Well, there are two sides of, yes, exactly.
That's
so I'm just saying that this is the time for them to actually show up for these people. Show up for them, regardless of what your issues may be, what they're saying about you. Show up, because these are lives that matter.
And also, the various parties should take advantage of the judicial system. We have various judicial bodies to take care of these chieftaincy issues. It doesn't always have to resort to violence. And we've been able to codify a lot of the processes for installing chiefs. So you submit it, and you know that you get a fair hearing. Sometimes there may be some ignorance out there that this can only be solved with arms. But there are avenues for redress.
And this is a wake-up call for the security agencies to also look at other flashpoints and deal surgically with such issues before they explode into full-blown conflict, as we are seeing in this area.
Well, let's do some other newspapers.
Yes.
Maybe, you have the Daily Democrat.
Daily Democrat, pro-NDC paper, I will fix the mess, quoting Mahama. And traditional herbalists call for government support. Immigration service foils cocoa smuggled in drums at Gabliri checkpoint. Kudos to our immigration officers. Interior Minister pledges reform and support for immigration service. And the boss of immigration service is urging investigation into the purchase of 20 new 30-seater buses for the service. There's controversy surrounding the purchase of these buses. So Mr. Techi, who is the Kwame Techi, Stuart Techi Esquire, is calling for investigations. I know him personally. He's one of the standard examples of leaders we have in this country, and we ought to respond adequately to and timeously to what he's calling for before it also explodes into something else. Daily Democrats for you. And at the back page, Daily Democrat, Mahama vows tough action against Galamsey menace. This was at a forum in Accra, which solicited views on how to fight Galamsey. Some progress is being made, but early this year to conclude that we
want to see a lot more action on Galamsey. Yes. Of course, we've heard the minister, and in the Sona, the president reiterate that. But like Sweetie has been saying, we want to see the action. This is not time for talk. This is not time for talk.
Yes, it's.
I mean, I know they have to approach it with caution, so you don't. But action is what we want to see.
A combination of caution and ruthlessness.
Yeah, I like that. Ruthlessness.
Fighting Galamsey is like feeding a shark. Once you stop, the shark will eat you up. Yes. So we need relentless action.
Okay. We have to go, but I have to do this quickly. I want to celebrate one of Ghana's biggest exports. Is it to the UK? Ruth Botio.
Oh, yeah.
You see, I've saved your life.
Oh,
she would have finished
happy birthday to my dear sister. Ruth. Yes. Thank you.
So from Ruth, from me, that is Benjamin, and Jonas. I'll not mention the rest of Jonas's name. Ruth, we wish you...
And I as well. Birthday. And your brother...
And
happy birthday, Ruth Botio.
This one also going out to Esther Nkrumah's niece. Happy birthday, Sophia Bois. 1 year ago, you came into this world and brought a whole new meaning into our lives. Watching you grow has been a beautiful blessing. And today, as you turn 1, I pray that the Lord keeps you and guides you as always. May you fulfill your purpose, walk in His light, and continue to bring endless smiles to our faces. With love, your auntie Esther Nkrumah. Esther is a production assistant here at Joy News. Yeah, Esther, she's 1 year old. Will she hear all this? Happy birthday! But that's a segment for the news review segment. Stay, because sports comes up next, and after we get into our big stories. And then, of course, E-Corner comes your way, and Benjamin Akako's blunt thoughts. All still to come on the AM
conclude, show. Happy birthday in advance to all new and old students of Agri Memorial Zero and SHS.
Okay.
We are celebrating our 85th anniversary next week.
Wow. 85th?
85, underlined. Yeah.
Well, okay. Happy anniversary to everyone, and happy
Dorothy,
birthday.
our teaching staff, Amosa, members, happy birthday. We all storming Cape Coast next week.
Okay.
Over there.
Okay. Stick and stay. We'll be right back on the AM show.